Hey, my name is Yasmine Mansi, and I run track and field at the University of Michigan. Yeah, so one of my biggest mentors when I was in high school was my coach in track and field. So his name was Coach Dalton. And something that Coach Dalton always said was the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I kind of always have stood by that when I have been training and when I've kind of been growing throughout my running career because when I thought about it more, like the harder that I work, the more effort that I put in, the more consistency that I exhibited essentially, I realized that the results were coming as I worked harder. So the luckier you, oh my goodness, I can't talk. The luckier that you get kind of meant like the more success that you would have. And I always worked hard, and he was always a really great motivator for me, for sure. And then another piece of advice that I got when I was high school is take advice from people that you want to be like. So I got that one from another athlete that I always looked up to. And it kind of meant a lot to me because I realized that taking advice from people that weren't in positions that I want to be like, kind of results like wherever someone's at is kind of like an indicator of their success, if that makes sense. So looking up to people you want to be like and taking advice from them will help bring you up and grow as an athlete for sure. I think those are two bits of advice that I took from my mentors in high school. Yeah, so I feel like something that I did that kind of differentiated myself from my competition was kind of looking within myself before I competed. So I would meditate, read books about runners that I wanted to be like, and kind of like take running not super seriously to the point where it would run me into the ground, but kind of recognize it like this is an extension of who I am as a person. And if I'm able to be okay without running, then I'll be able to be even better with running, if that makes sense. So kind of when I was injured a few times when I was in high school, and having outside hobbies and ways that kind of like got my mind off of running and being able to grow in different parts of my life helped me be an even better runner when I came back onto the track after an injury. So just being able to be strong in numerous different parts of my life, I felt like was something that gave me a competitive advantage as an athlete. So I think it was funny when I was in high school, I was always known as the Pedialyte girl because I would always drink Pedialyte. Because when I was in middle school, someone told me once that it has less sugar and more electrolytes. And I kind of noticed that like every time I took that extra step when it came to my nutrition, or when I focused more on those like little things with running, it always helped me feel better and compete better. So I think a lot of the time when it comes to long distance running, your mind matters so much, like your mental strength, your mental health and everything like that. And even from when I was in high school, it's something that I'm still working on now. Working on my nutrition and my mental health in addition to training hard were things that set me apart within my training and helped me succeed as an athlete. So when I was in high school, I struggled a lot with comparing myself to other people. There is an app called athletic.net, and you can basically see everyone's times, everyone's performances, throughout all the years that they ran, all the races of the year. And I remember before a race, I would stalk all my competitors, athletic.net. Are they faster than me? Are they better than me? What times have they run? Like, oh no, they're too fast. I'm scared of them. I would always do that every race. And then I got to a point, and I've learned from it now, that comparing myself is just a very unhealthy tactic. And it's something that made me more nervous and anxious than helped me. I always thought, like, oh, if I'm prepared before a competition, I'll be able to race better because I know who's in my game. But honestly, taking it one race at a time and not knowing those things I learned as I got older help you even more because you're able to focus more on your own race and you're able to focus more on your own success when you're not constantly comparing. So imposter syndrome, another thing that went into that is I would always look up at other athletes who were elite. So people who were winning the state meet in high school, people who were winning the national meet. And I was like, they're so good, I'll never be as good as them. I'm not going to be able to succeed or go run in college because I'm not as good as these people in high school. And that's another thing that I struggled with when I was in high school was because I realized like you're still able to be successful in your own way without comparing yourself. So that's definitely a struggle that I went through when I was in high school. Yeah, so I was recruited during COVID, so the dark ages, 2020, and a lot of my recruitment was done over phone calls, Zoom calls, online. And I think one piece of advice within my recruiting is don't be afraid to reach out because I think something at first I was like, I don't want to reach out to this coach, like literally the Michigan State coach, which was totally something that was in my reach at the time. But I was like, I don't want to reach out. I want them to reach out to me. And I think having that mindset really is like closed minded. And it's something that I wish I would have told myself in high school was don't be worried about if they'll reach out or not, or if they'll respond or not, because you have to be kind of fearless when it comes to recruiting and recognize like your skills as an athlete and what you bring to the table. So don't be afraid to reach out is definitely my bit of advice for there. My recruiting journey, I kind of got scouted out from different meets that I ran my sophomore year because my junior year, we had no season, and that's the season that usually people are recruited in. So I was already going on unofficial visits from my sophomore season after my sophomore year was done. And that's kind of how I found Michigan. I've always known that I wanted to go to the University of Michigan from a young age. In my freshman year, I was getting recruited for soccer for Division II and Division III, so I didn't even know if I would run in college. But when I kind of saw the opportunity to go Division I and play sport at Michigan, is when I recognized that's where I wanted to go and that's where I wanted to be. Kind of close to home, but also very competitive atmosphere and good academically. Definitely weigh in all the different aspects a school brings to the table when you're being recruited is another thing. So don't just go there because it's a good offer. Also look at the academics, the clubs, the different people that you'll be around. That's definitely something that I looked at when I was being recruited. So one of the things I learned at Michigan, and I think this is like really important to know as an athlete, is that as a track athlete, you are still running the same races you ran in high school. And I think that's something I was really worried about or really scared about. How different is it going to feel in college? You're still running the same 1500 and 800 that you always ran in high school. And it's nothing to be stressed out or worried about because you're still running the same races that you've ran your whole life. It's just at a higher level. So I've always gone with the strategy of sitting and kicking. And I realized that some strategies that you go about racing in high school aren't the same ones that you're going to follow in college. So I noticed that you have to lean in on your teammates a lot more when you're in college because I feel like in high school, your teammates aren't usually the same level as you. A lot of my teammates in high school, or a lot of my teammates at Michigan, were the top in their high school. Like I was the top in my high school, and I didn't really run with anyone. It was kind of like working out and racing on my own. But being in college, leaning in on your teammates and recognizing you have that support system, you have these people here for you to see you improve and get better as an athlete. That's really something that helped me. Seeing like we wear like little maize and blue ribbons in our hair when we race. So when I'm racing, looking for the maize and blue ribbons and just looking for my teammates and working together with them is something that I really saw in college that gave me an edge. It's just recognizing the community that you have and how much you can use that to your advantage. Yeah, so when it comes to kind of like student athlete balance, I feel like being organized is one thing that has helped me so much because recognizing like practice is going to take time, having buffers in your schedule for recognizing how practice takes. Sorry, that was bad. I'm gonna answer that again. so
No worries.
so being a student athlete at Michigan, especially like such an academic school, recognizing that you can do extra things whilst being a student athlete. I think that's something that when I was in high school, I was like, oh, student athlete, like I'm gonna be so busy, I'm not gonna be able to do anything. I'm president of two different clubs, like student organizations on campus right now, and I'm able to manage those while managing my course load and being an athlete at the same time. And just being really organized with my work, my meetings, the people that I'm interacting with, and still getting a college experience at the same time by being in different organizations is definitely something that I like being a part of at Michigan because I feel like a stigma within college athletes or even people who are on my team, they're like, oh, we're missing out on our college experience because we're athletes. But I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think you need to be a NARP. I'm sorry. That's what that like I don't think you need to be a non-student athlete to experience college to the fullest. So one of the organizations that I am the president of that I manage on campus is I have a 501c3 nonprofit. It's called the Sun Bundle, and basically we make care packages for underserved athletes by recycling shoes and clothing that we get from different athletes. So I really like the work that I do with that because I'm able to engage my own work that I do on the side with different athletic programs within Michigan, different teams like soccer, gymnastics. I've worked with football, basketball, track, all different people that I've worked with for my organization while still being a student and an athlete. So definitely it's all in the balance and it's all in the way that you organize your schedule and organize your work. And you also need to leave time for yourself and recognize like self-care is very important. Having time to like relax, you're not always stressed out, and just also working that into your schedule and just being really on top of it is kind of how you'll succeed in the balance portion. I guess one bit of advice that I would give my high school self is just never like waver on your nutrition or your sleep or all like the essentials that go into your well-being as a person, because something that in high school I was like, I can get 6 hours of sleep, like I'll be fine. But when I got to college, I realized like it's imperative that you take care of your body and that you're consistent with those efforts, because it goes a long way in your recovery and how you're feeling. And especially being in college now and recognizing we'll take an hour to go in cold tubs and roll out in Normatec boots, getting a snack after practice. We'll do all those things like routinely. In high school, it was kind of like, I'll eat this banana before and call it a day. So I think just being consistent with those efforts and making sure that you're on top of it with your recovery, you're on top of it with your recovery and your nutrition and your sleep, and just all the little things that go into being a runner make a huge difference in your performance. Yeah, so I feel like the NIL space is untapped at a lot of universities, and there's so much opportunity that exists within the space. So I recently went to this NIL summit in Atlanta, and we learned a lot about the cutting edge advancements with NIL and just all the different opportunities that people have. And people, it doesn't matter what performance you're at. Like, I think a lot of the time, the preconception is you need to post a cringy video on Instagram, and that's how you get NIL deals. You have to be top 3 in the Big Ten to want to get these deals. And that's just not the case. And that's something that was a misconception for me and a lot of my teammates. And learning from this summit has taught me a lot, especially someone that I met there. Sorry, my phone just gave me a low battery thing. Someone that I met there was, he was known on the internet for being a bench warmer, and he was able to take advantage of that as his NIL, as his name, image, and likeliness is, okay, I'm not going to get on the plane for this meet. And he took advantage of that and was able to get deals with Nike, with Honey Stingers, with Gatorade, all these different companies, just because he was able to express himself online and take advantage of his social media presence. So I recognized at that conference that NIL is such a huge space, and schools have so many resources. They'll have the influencer app, you'll probably have an NIL lead or manager at your school. And these are resources that you should totally take advantage of when they come to you. And even seek them out on your own, honestly. Like, but I've recently gotten more involved with using the influencer app for my school and reaching out to companies. And I've already recognized being able to be involved with companies. I haven't scored at a Big Ten meet yet in my high school or in my collegiate career. And there's a lot of people who haven't even taken advantage of the space. So being able to understand that it's a space for every collegiate athlete, Division 1, Division 2, Division 4, whatever division you are, whatever kind of athlete you are, it's a space for everyone to tap into. It's also a space where you can make money and you can really have cool brand deals. So definitely something that I want to take more advantage of is the NIL space. And it's something that I've already kind of started to dip my toes into. So like kind of a last bit of advice is, my coach in college told me once before a race that you don't have to win the race, you have to win your race. And that quote kind of resonated a lot with me, because it made me realize that your biggest competitor is yourself. And by recognizing that within distance running and within running too, by being able to PR and just win your own races will go a long way when it comes to your running career and just recognizing your worth and how like cool it is to be a collegiate athlete.